Here we go again. Under a second it is. Like stint 10 stream is scheduled and ready. So I'll just post the link in here. So you have like a seamless transition for the next one.
Alright, welcome back everybody. We're back.
Ooh, guess who's back?
The host with the most, your boy Ghost.
Shady's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
Sing it,
Guess
baby.
who's back? Guess who's back? Na na na. I felt like singing a little bit.
Well, yeah.
No, I had my 5 minutes of singing throughout the night, so all good. Yeah.
So you guys are probably hearing sounds on my stream that are a little off to Jaeger's stream right now. That's just the way the lobbies are transitioning, so bear with. But we're gonna leave it in the hands of Jaeger for now until the driver swaps start happening, and then we'll do our beautiful little transitions we got going on here.
You do? Okay, nice. So right, we have that battle for P3, and it's again Lugi all over pole sitter. On top of Radion, it's 1/10. Pole sitter defending the inside line. Lugi with his trick on the straight that is on GTR, looking to go for a move around the outside. The end of Camel into Lecombe. Off track, there's contact between two cars. Oh, and pole sitter gets damaged with that contact. Unlucky again. Lugi on the inside, pole sitter then over the curb and got run wide into the barrier. It is replay time. It is replay time.
Ooh,
once again.
Juicy.
So they went side by side into the braking zone, and then it was Lugi. Let's see, onto the Astro, out of control the car, and then it is damage for the number 13 car, unfortunately. So we'll watch that again from the chase cam perspective, I think.
How we all doing over here, GT45 side of things?
It
Hope
should give us like the best views, a bit of lag. Then there's just the car got unsettled, so very unlucky.
Just bear with, ladies and gentlemen. We're just
pretty
sure driver swaps to start here, and we will transition into our part
having
of
contact
stint
resulting
number 10.
in damage.
Should take about 5
This
more
will
minutes.
lead into an incident
Welcome
report
back
for the
in.
stewards.
We are nearing the end of our race. We're
probably
within
a
6
slam dunk
hours
penalty.
when we take over here at
Cannot argue with
GT45
that.
Gaming.
I mean,
Welcome in on behalf
you are
of
out of
International
control,
Racing Organization.
giving
We'll be
another car
live
damage.
on the live scene very soon.
I cannot argue with that. So Neo is on that final lap. That stint, lap 51, 1 minute in. So roughly 1 minute away from that. Driver swap. So Shadow, I was showing all the other cars, but we have to stick to a battle that is happening. We are desperate for battles. Yeah, I know you want to see the gaps, and you will see them pretty soon once the driver swap's happening. But there's not much going on anywhere else on that track, unfortunately. So bear with me with the broadcast and all how it's happening.
It sounds like the viewers are getting restless. They need some commentator cursing to start happening here. I mean,
Yeah.
you tried. You asked for rain. You got rain. I mean, I don't know what else, right?
maybe I had one drop of rain
Yes.
somewhere. At least so. Neo into the pits now, the leader. Now going for that driver swap. 1 minute 36, that gap to Evo in P2. Still taking some time. Lugi is still running in P3. Pole sitter in P4. 1.8 seconds the gap. With that damage, low on fuel, but no point pitting. They have to do one more lap though. Oscar in P5. 6 minutes behind the leaders. Mazda in P6 on soft tires pushing.
That's 6 hours now for that driver that I can confirm with Mazda. He's putting in some work there for Sector 7 here this weekend.
So Iceman in P7. 48 seconds that gap to P6. McNally in P8. 30 seconds. It says final lap. I'm a bit confused what's happening. No, it was just a glitch with the game.
Shocker.
Oof.
Boy,
Yeah,
isn't that been the motif for today here? Thankfully, the glitches are cosmetic and not affecting the race itself. That we can at least be thankful for that.
True, so true. Yeah, Toto Wolff in P9, 2 minutes 20 nearly behind P8, and Adriano with like the driver of the stint probably up to P10. 1 minute 19
Hello, Ray.
behind Toto Wolff. That is a great drive. So we should see Evo now arriving at his crew, getting ready for that driver swap. So the first two drivers are in. Lugi in P3 is on that final lap of the stint. Now 2.5 seconds the gap to pole sitter in P4.
So it appears we have a decent little gap going between ORT and ERA Esports here, Esports Race Asylum. We'll get it out eventually. So I'm a little curious what happened throughout the last couple hours here. Was it just the sheer race pace that separated the drivers, or was there a couple little mistakes on the racetrack there, or what went down there?
The driver swap, we had like the 2 minute plus thingy going on. Then the leaders were forced to go out on intermediates in those conditions, and then they had to do the extra pit stop to go on to the mediums. Since then, that gap stayed roughly at 1 minute 30 between the two teams. So that's where the Esports Race Asylum team gained roughly 40 seconds.
So yeah, actually, as King Ears taking over the piloting of the Esports Race Asylum Corvette here, the 44 car, that gap is exactly as you state, 1.5 minutes separating first and second place here currently. But again, keynote, they were a lap down just 4 hours ago. They are now only 1.5 minutes behind the race leaders. We have 6 hours remaining. Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. That's all I'm gonna say.
P3 in the pits and P4 following closely behind, so 3.5 seconds that gap between the 77 and the 13 car for that.
All right, so now that we're at the 18-hour mark, we're precisely 3/4 of the way through this 24-hour race here now. This is when things start to get really serious in the paddocks. The teams start to wake up a little bit. The heart rate start to increase a little bit. The next two racers that are on the list to finish off the race for each of the teams are probably starting to feel a little bit of that pressure now. They have the plan from the team. They have the orders. And it's all about execution over the next 360 minutes, call it 5 hours, 5.5 hours of racing precisely, give or take. Call it 6. We're going to call it 6.
Yeah, 6.
So, Race Asylum GTR, Race Asylum 1, I believe this is now coming out here, third place, 1.5 minutes in behind the esports team car, and Macho out for Sector 7 BMW team, only 7 seconds in behind. So immediately we do have a short gap here between two teams, so that's lovely. We like that.
Interesting. It was 3.5 when they went into the pits, so maybe change tires?
It could be. It could very well be.
Could be.
I'm gonna go
Yeah.
take a little peek-sees here and see what I see. Interesting.
I mean, they were just doing one outlap, so probably. But yeah, if you're being stationary in the pits,
I mean,
you probably
ultimately
want to
now,
change tires for the
each of the teams that are just about to prepare that driver swap and get the car up on the jack, up on the hydraulic lifts, I mean, they all have that decision to make at this point. Again, the track is showing about, we're going to call it 50% moisture currently here, and a little mistake made here by Macho as well, as we're coming into pool on there. So those cold tires and wet conditions, semi-wet conditions, caught him out a little bit there. It's going to cost him some time to Hansa there, and the gap is growing now to about 16 seconds. So a little unfortunate there, but still early in the stint.
That's correct, but yeah, those little mistakes, they can add up. So we see P5, the MRL, the 33 BMW now getting ready for their driver swaps into the bus stop chicane for the final time. It is for Oscar, and no drama on that pit entry. So Oscar is in. What about Mazda for Sector 7 Racing, that Renault RS01? In we go.
And it's going to be a fellow Australian taking over the helm there for that team here, as well as Ando's going to step back in behind the wheel to take on stint number 10 here for that Sector 7 Racing Renault team as well. So the Australians are putting in some work here in the latter parts of this race here for Sector 7 Racing I believe number 1 team it is.
And we're waiting for 4 more cars. So yeah, we have a 2 cars teams that have retired their cars, the AHR 69 and the LRC.
No, the LRC boys. Oh,
yeah,
heart's broken on that one. They were just giving it everything they had. Oh, that's tough. Heart goes out to the LRC team. Absolutely fantastic, tough, hard racing here today. All right, so Jakey is out and Welshie is out, and I'm not sure what happened there. Ooh, big moment right there. We're definitely going to have to get back onto that. And oh, that is not what a driver wants to see right at the beginning of their stint. Just fresh out of the pit lane. Lack of traction on the racetrack. And oh boy, that is tough. And I'm sorry, boys, but we got to see it. And that just coming out of pit lane, just a little too happy on the throttle into the mud and grass. And thankfully, Code Brown right there. That MRL car semi-ghosted and did not collect up the 6th place driver. Woo! Tough call. That was a close moment there. Definitely some damage on that racing car from the MRL 33 car. We'll have to wait and see what they decide they're going to do with that. But the way we've seen these race starts here, Ando now closing in as well, of course, due to that mistake made by Welshie there, and Ando is only a couple seconds in behind there as well. So, scary moments. Brown flag, yeah, absolutely. But you know what? They're still forward. They're still going. The car's still moving, and they got 6 hours. So let's see what they can do with it. We got Yeast out for MRL2 here in the GTR as well, and 54 seconds is the gap to him and Sector 7 Racing's Renault team. So 8 drivers of the remaining 12 in the field now out on track. And just as I say that, we do have, I believe, probably the Syndicate Racing Corvette next. If I had to guess, based off the driver, it is Hidde, our French driver coming in. Is that French? Maybe Netherlands.
No,
Apologize if I got it wrong. Dutch. I'm so sorry. My apologies, everybody. But Cupcake making a bold prediction, my co-host in the last through stint 7 and 8, which we do appreciate. Cupcake, my awesome co-host. If you're still kicking around, appreciate you, homie G. Love you, my man. That was absolutely fantastic stuff coming from you, brother, and definitely we want to do more of that. That was great. But Hidde making a mistake there. 64 Corvette. Yeah, you get it a little bit wrong, and drivers struggling very early on here in this stint, getting the car to come to terms with the track very early on. So maybe a little bit of adrenaline pumping through some of our drivers here as they come out for our third last stint of the race. King Ears is in pit lane. coming off of those tires. So here we go. The pit stop transition starts. So some drivers, the drivers obviously that are on the lead lap, which is King Ears and Player Professor right now from the ORT Lexus team, have to make that extra pit stop essentially in the race because they're kind of, their hands are kind of forced with the way that the race starts have been. They need to take that wet tire for, well, I mean, the safety of the car in the race, essentially. It's a big risk to come out on the medium tire. Not every one of these drivers' name is Evo, so safety is important, especially nearing the conclusion of our race here in 6 hours' time, a little less. So King Ears is coming out, undercut, so to speak, strategy here, but the track is still about 60% wet coming out of pit lane, so he's going to have to be careful here. I think the racetrack itself is probably a little bit drier, and of course pit lane is going to stay a lot more wet for a little bit longer because there's less traffic traveling it. But yeah, once we get to track surface, we're at about 33-40% moisture here, so he's gonna have to be a little cautious here, get those tires up to temperature, and of course make sure he's stuck to that drier line as he continues around. So Hansa is a minute 39 in behind, and also clearly on the wet tires based off the fact that he just totally dove that car into the wet line to cool them guys down a little bit. And when is it that he's going to choose to come in, I suppose, is the big question there. Macho for Sector 7 Racing here in 4th place, 38 seconds in behind. Hamza has some damage on his racing car, so not an ideal start there for the Sector 7 BMW racing team here either, and potentially good for ERA Racing, Race Asylum number 2 team. ERA drivers and Race Asylum teams, very confusing. too late in the day.
P10 is in the pits, so just
fantastic.
Missing one driver. That's the 45.
So Jakey here is 2.5 minutes in behind Macho, and we'll have to wait and see how everything comes out. Some drivers are on wet, some drivers are on racing slicks, so there's going to be some pit stops happening here over the next few minutes as well, I assume. Interesting to see how all that's going to shape out at the end of the day. Ando's in 6th place, so up a position here from the driver swap now. Welshie making that mistake for MRL BMW team, losing that position to Ando and Jakey coming out of pit exit, and over the next concurring 4 laps, or 3 laps leading up to this point here, we have Yeast.
45 is in.
Perfect.
And that concludes Stint 9 broadcast, so head over to Stint 10 if you haven't already. Probably no one is watching the stream anymore, so see you in 2 hours with Stint 11. Until then, bye bye.
Cheers for now, we'll catch you soon. I appreciate, of course, all the hard work from Jaeger here as well, stepping in, getting some of that juicy racing action here, the 24 hours of Spa from IRO here as well in, and his service is always greatly appreciated as well, so we look forward to meeting up with him here in about an hour and a half to 2 hours time. Okay, let's make a quick little clicky click here and a little clicky click there. Fantastic. All right. Back to our time gaps. We did have viewers in the other stream in IRO YouTube asking for time gaps right before the driver swap. So let's get that for everybody now that we have all of our drivers officially back at race pace. So let's start up obviously with Team ORT in the Lexus in the race lead currently. Purple at the moment here on the racetrack as well, but very early in this stint, and has a 2 minute and 7 second gap over King Ears in 2nd position. We do have our 3rd place driver actually just coming into pit lane there, so that time gap will slightly change again once that driver settles back into their position, but we'll continue to go through here. At the time of that, it was about 1 minute 11, so we'll note that. Macho coming around here for Sector 7 Racing is going to come into pit lane, and I assume is to sort out the damage issue with their racing car. That's going to allow ERJ Jakey to come around here for Race Asylum 2 and take 4th place away from Macho. We'll have to wait and see here. 2.5 minutes. I guess that's a lap down, so that's going to allow him to unlap himself from the 4th place driver, and it puts him still down a lap to the race leader, I suppose, but unlaps himself from the Sector 7 Racing Team 4th place driver at this point here. So a little bit of work to do here for Race Asylum 2 as well. Ando here is navigating around our 3rd place driver, Hansa, as of course he's just coming out of pit lane. He's not up to speed yet, so Ando will go around him here for the time being, and then at some point potentially here a few laps from now or a couple laps from now, whatever the case may be, we'll have to potentially concede that position back to Hansa once he gets up to race pace, but that's the name of the game when we endurance race. The 33 BMW on Team MRL here, Welshie behind the wheel, a little bit of a mistake coming out of pit lane. Not the severe damage on this racing car, but definitely a little bit of damage. How that affects that racing car, I guess is hard to say, but has opted not to go in and fix it and is going to continue on around the racetrack here for the time being. And we'll see if that is the continuation from Welshie here as we continue around early on in stint number 10 here. So 23 minutes in, so we're 16 hours and 23 minutes into the 24 hours of Spa from the International Racing Organization. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host for stint number 10, GT45 Gaming, and we're in the setup stint, I like to call this here now. So this is an important stint for all the teams because the objective here for this stint is to put one of your, definitely one of your top drivers into the car, and the goal is seek and destroy, make time up, build a gap to the guy behind, set up our top 2 drivers to take this thing home. So this is actually a pretty crucial stint because this is going to set up the 4-hour to 2-hour stint, which is ultimately going to set up the final push of the race. So as the race grows older, it becomes more and more of a sprint race as opposed to an endurance race. So the next 4 hours especially are very crucial moments, especially for Esports Race Asylum and ORT, Overboost Racing Team, to continue maintaining their pace. And for Esports Race Asylum, they've got to find another level here over the next 4 hours and see what they can do to try and close the gap and try and fight for a championship here at the end of 2024. Whew, the build-up is killing me. Alright, so it is Hansa here now in 3rd place. Didn't lose a position with having to make that pit stop. So 32-second advantage over Macho, who had to pit in behind there as well. Minute 41 to King Ears, who had to pit to change their tires. And of course, our race leader, Player Prof, is 1 minute and 49 seconds ahead of King Ears. So the undercut actually benefit Esports Race Asylum a little bit there. Got Hansa here again in 3rd place. He's navigating right now our 6th place driver. Ooh, got a little bit deep into the corner there. We got into the wet stuff, and immediately that car lost traction underneath of him there, but he didn't let it get too far off course. He just got it gathered back up, but now he's got Ando closing in on him here. So he had to wait for Ando to get by coming out of pit lane, finally re-navigates his way back around Ando, and then now makes a small mistake, and Ando starts closing back in again. So he's back on the gas pedal here, and starting to try not to allow that situation to happen to him here again early on in the stint. We hit the same button there apparently. Macho Man here has had good pace every time he's been on track here in this throughout this 24-hour race. Has shown essentially race leader pace. He's just currently sitting in 4th place, 4 minutes behind the race leader because of the way the race is shaped up to this point, but it definitely has good pace, so we should expect to see potentially some gaps closing maybe to 3rd place, if anything potentially opening up at least more of a gap to 5th place, but currently in, as I like to call it, no man's land, no pressure, nobody in front, nobody behind. At some point may run into some blue flag traffic, but probably a good solid hour of just trying to close a gap right now for him. ERA's Jakey here for Race Asylum 2 Lexus team is 1 minute 29 seconds in behind Macho, and again he's a very quick driver, so is ERA Jakey though, and we'll have to just kind of watch the gap management here from the top 5 drivers right now, especially because they're all, in my opinion, probably fairly close as far as overall pace goes here. It's really coming down to race situations for the most part here, and I mean the sun has just absolutely started beaming down on the racetrack here. We've got beautiful daytime conditions again, so we love that. and it is Welshie continuing up the track here. So the damage doesn't seem to have phased him entirely too much here, but he hasn't exactly locked the car in yet either. So he is purple currently on that 2-minute 20.2 lap coming up the first sector, but it is quite easy to be purple coming up the into the first lap timing sector, just depending on the car and the kind of run you get up Rouge and La Radion. So get a good run, good chance you might come through that sector purple. It's the rest of the racetrack that is the hard part, to maintain that purple lap, but currently it seems like he's on pace, so I don't think that the damage that he is carrying is affecting him too heavily here. And then we got him back to our 7th place driver, Ando. 6.6 seconds is that gap between Ando and Welshie. But this car now also carrying damage of some sort on their racing car as well. We're not going to speculate too much because we're not going to give away free information to the potential competition watching and behind the scenes, hoping for a tidbit of free information here, because we are getting to that point in the race where I'm going to button it up a little bit more tighter and not give that information away so freely. So damage on the race car is all we're going to give up. Yeasted 8th place, just getting out of the way there of King Ears as he's coming around for the number 44 Corvette, and that's tough when the track is still dry because you have to pull off the racing line as per procedure and the rule book here at International Racing Organization in designated zones supplied by race officials pre-race. And of course, that's taking care of the driver's briefing a couple days beforehand, etc., etc. It's a great process that happens here behind the scenes. They prep these teams and the racers for each individual racing round throughout the year. So it's a tough situation when you've got a semi-drying racetrack, because if you're on a racing slick and you're forced to get out into that wet line, you have to be extremely aware that you just compromised your traction levels. And I mean, you got to do it. It is what it is. But that's a part of the game and a part of the sport. But it still makes it no less of a tough situation, no matter who the driver is being in that situation. So that was a great job there by Yeast and the MRL GTR there, not to let that get him into any extra trouble there, just having to dip off the racing line and compromise his potential traction underneath the race car there. So we got Hidey here, the number 64 Corvette, and Cupcake speculated 7th, 6th place from this driver. They're about a minute behind East GT, and they are definitely running out of stint time here. But this driver is very quick, a very, very quick driver as well. All the drivers in here are very quick. You can see blue flags waving. I believe that's the race leader actually creeping in behind here. Yes, it is. So. I guess the big question is, can this Corvette continue to charge up into the field and get up into that, say, 7th or 6th place position? I mean, it's a minute gap right now to 8th place. So again, it's a tall order, but we've seen that Corvette was absolutely blazing pace once the track really starts to dry up. So I would assume that it's still not going to be any different here, and especially with the track conditions really leaning in on the warmer side, it appears here. Some of these cars are really going to turn on and really start to put down some times potentially. But got that blue flag waving here as the race leader is creeping, and who had to use the, hold on to it. Oh, that was a great save right there by Hidey. He got it a little bit wrong. He caught the inside curb heading up out of a Rouge up into La Radion. That threw the car off. He had to take the runaway side of La Radion there to and not get himself into trouble on the exit there, and came back on the track surface relatively great, but he caught that wet patch on the side of the track there, and that almost threw that Corvette for an absolute devastating spin there. But man, quick reaction time from Hidey, and just gathers that Corvette up underneath of him, gives that position up to the race leader, which is eventually what he was going to have to do anyways. Just a little bit unorthodox and unexpected for him, but moving, cruising, and grooving. It is very, very late in the morning. I can't believe my phone is still going off at this time. That's insane. I apologize. Alright, I think we're good. It's just late notifications coming because I got Discord on my laptop as well. But yeah, I had a great reaction time. I mean, that's just, you can't teach that. You really can't teach reactions like that in behind a race car. That is something that happens absolutely in the moment. It's a split-second reaction, and okay, you don't train for that. It just happens. It is a natural body reaction in that moment, and that's just, that was a great save. Great save from Hide. Beautiful. Love it. So we got Keplero back into the Loose Moose Racing AMG Mercedes. We seen him a little earlier on in the race here. I believe it was stint 4. I think I seen him in. Maybe the beginning of a stint of the race. I can't quite remember now, but it had pretty good pace. So 2 minutes behind Hide in this number 64 Syndicate Racing Corvette there, but also has about 50 seconds over ERA's Harlock. Now, Harlock had a good, solid last stint last time around, just about 4 hours ago, maybe a little less, and closed up some pretty good time distance on the driver in front. So right now, tasked with a 50-second gap between himself and Keplero for that top 10 position here in the race today. Continue moving through the field here, and oh, well, look at who we got here in the 45 McLaren. We got Mr. Roses up in the pilot house here, so love to see it. I love to see it. And he was in an earlier stint there as well, in one of the stints we happened to not broadcast here today, and looked like he had a pretty decent stint, so he's back on track. He's got 1 minute and 2 seconds in behind Harlock in 11th place, so let's we'll keep our eye on that gap. Let's see if we can close it in. He's a quick racer, very quick racer. We'll see if the McLaren decides to play nice for Roses here. Love to see it. Ando in pit lane here, so an early pit stop here for the Sector 7 racing driver, deciding that maybe the wounded car is just not working into the plan, working to the strat. So I think it's still early enough in the stint. Let's just take the hit now and see what we can see if we can make it back up here before the end of the race. I think that's kind of what the call is here. Maybe we see a splash of fuel. Oh, we are going to see a tire change here as well. Okay, so method to the madness here as well. Going to take new tires, no fuel, and just repair that car. So you got to give a shout out to these racing teams pickers. I mean, that is the fastest tire change you will ever see on a race car. I mean, 3 seconds flat, and they never skip a beat. It's never any faster, it's never any slower. You can guarantee that it is going to be a 3-second tire change from the GT7 pit crews. That is the one constant for sure at a pit stop here in the game. It is a 3-second tire change. Just flat out, it's 3 seconds. From there, fuel obviously will determine how much time depending on how much fuel. And of course, if you have damage, depending on how severe the damage is also going to depend on how much extra time is added to repair the car at the end of the fueling process or the tire change process. And of course, that will change whether or not you're coming out with time lost or time gained on the driver ahead and behind. So I think it was a good call by myself from the Renault team there. Just get it out of the way early, maybe change up the strat a little bit, modify the strat a little bit, maybe it's more the word suited better for the situation here, and just push, hopefully getting some clean air, and can just push and have a good, clean, nice, tire stint. Keplero, 2 minutes, we got 46 seconds, 2P11, pardon me, with Harlock. And Harlock has 1:04 to Roses here, so a little bit of time gain right now on the backside there between 13th and 14th. Go Harlock, says Adriano, our driver of the stint last stint, Jaeger says. So it sounds like you had an absolute bomb stint, my man, so great job out there. And it is player prof, still leading the race for Team ORT here, but the gap is dwindling. The gap is dwindling. 1:27 now currently to King Ears from Esports Race Asylum, and what seemed to be an insurmountable hill to climb for our second place Corvette here is still a pretty big hill to climb, but that insurmountable, not so much potentially. Going to be very interesting next 5.5 hours or so. We got Hamza in third position, 1 minute 48 seconds in behind the King Ears Corvette and the Esports Race Asylum team. And now, for those of us that are just tuning in and kind of trying to get caught up with what's happening here, we are almost 8, we're going to call it 18 hours and 40 minutes into the 24-hour race here at this point. This is our 2024 GTEC International Racing Organization Endurance Race Finale, and at the end of this race, champions will be crowned. The current point gap between the two teams still very currently, the way the race is sitting, especially that are eligible for this championship at this point based off of potential points that are about to be earned here. Now, anything can change with 5.5 hours remaining, 5 hours 20 minutes remaining. But right now, the way things have been looking, this really has come down between the two drivers that are on the lead lap, and that is our first place driver, Overboost Racing Team, Lexus here, and of course pilots. Currently, right now, being driven by Player Prof 1. Player Professor, I'm assuming that stands for. Then we have, of course, Esports Race Asylum Corvette here, the 44 car, the other car on the lead lap, and the only car that's close enough to even attempt a challenge right now for a race win here today is 1 minute and 49 seconds in behind, minute 28, sorry, pardon me, in behind the first place team. Now, currently the way the race sits right now, if for any reason, for some reason, race officials called this race and it had to end right this second, this is a tied championship at the end of the race, unofficially. So that means now the league has to go down. They have to go into a tiebreaker. And to the best of my understanding on the tiebreaker is they go down to the amount of race wins. Whichever team has the most race wins will break that tie. Well, when we go and take a look at the race wins in the season history, we have Esports Race Asylum and Overboost Racing Team with the same amount of race wins this season. So now what do we do? Things are getting a little interesting. Well, they go down into the number of second place finishes, so they just continue to move down the spots essentially of the list until it finally they find that separation. And when you go down into the most second place finishes due to the first place finish tie, that does belong to Overboost Racing Team. So when we put all of that into perspective, that means that this Corvette right now that we're following here on the screen, the 44 Esports Racing Corvette, only option at this point is to beat Overboost Racing Team at Spa here at the end of the 24 hours today, and that is the only way that they will win this championship today, because if the race finishes in the positions that they are in right now, whether it be a minute and a half, 10 minutes, or 10 seconds apart from each other, that tiebreaker will belong to the Overboost Racing Team, to the best of my understanding. So, everything on the line for first and second place here. For those of us that are not in the know, hopefully now you're in the know. All right, so we got Hansa here in third place. Our final podium racer here right now has a 11.6 second gap over the Sector 7 Racing BMW. So they have opted to sort out their early damage in the race here, early in the stint, pardon me. And I think that has worked out for him, because the car clearly is pacing very well. He just has taken the fastest lap of the session at 2:17.132 and is lapping now again purple on his own fastest lap here. So Macho is feeling it right now in this Beamer, and if I'm Hansa and the team in behind the radio, I'm on notice. I'm on notice right now, without a question of a doubt. It's Cafe Ray open yet? Yeah, is Cafe Ray open yet? I could use a cafe. I could use a coffee. We've got Welshie here in the 6th position. Tough start coming out of pit lane for this driver at the driver swap. Just got a little too hard on the loud pedal and the car spun. Not really violently, but just enough to get into that wet grass and slip into the wall and take some minor damage on his racing car as well. So we do have some drivers out there with some stricken race cars to some extent or another. How much that's affecting the race cars it could really only be assumed without talking to the actual driver and getting their perspective on it. But the last thing they want to do right now is talk to us while they are in the heat of battle on the racetrack. So Welshie has 39-second gap to Yeast here in the MRL GTR, which now we're following here, and he is just been passed there by King Ears in the Race Asylum Corvette 44 car. So currently sitting in 7th position, and much of the same, just about 30-40 seconds in behind the team car here. And that's kind of been the story between the two MRL cars here this race for the last, I want to say 6-8 hours. They've just kind of been near each other, and at points very very close to each other. And at one point there actually an attempted pass to be made there, and it didn't happen. Driver had to back out, and then of course at some point I think we've seen a team order come across, and then we've seen those two drivers swap positions. But yeah, for the most part, the MRL team has been within about that 30-second gap from each other here all race long, or for the last 8 hours anyways. Open 24 hours, straight up. So we got Ando here in 8th place. Had to make a pit stop as well a few laps ago there to sort out a smaller issue with the race car and modify their strategy slightly. I think they have just navigated around the 45 McLaren car driven by Roses, and that is what we've seen there. So 9.5 seconds to Yeast in 7th place. So we do have some smaller gaps here on the racetrack right now. 39 seconds really I wouldn't consider, I guess, a smaller gap, but 10 seconds right now we'll take 10-second gap between Yeast and Ando here. So we'll continue just to kind of keep our eye on that, see if the Renault can continue to close up the gap to that GTR. I think it's going to be a tough order because that GTR is going to be very strong on the backside of this racetrack where all the big power sections are, but the Renault will definitely excel in the earlier parts of the racetrack where the more technical parts are. So we'll have to just kind of keep our eye on it and see, but right now I can definitely tell you that the 45 McLaren is seeming to keep pace with Ando here right now. So good for the McLaren because Ando's in the mid-pack right now, lapping a little bit quicker most likely, and if he can stay in that slipstream, Ando is potentially going to continue to pull him down the racetrack a little bit quicker and maybe draw him into a potential positional fight at some point. So we'll see if Roses can sit in behind Ando here for a little bit. We got Hidey here in 9th position. He's got 47 seconds to the Sector 7 racing team here. It was about, what was that, about 50, somewhere in around 50 to 55 seconds, I believe. So chipping away at Ando there right now in that Renault. We got it down to about 47 seconds. It says he's at low fuel. He's not at low fuel. That's just one of the game faux pas that we have going on here. We've got Keplero in 10th position, 2 minutes behind Hidey here as he comes just past that live timing sector into a Rouge, heading up Lardedian. Gets it a little bit shallow there, and I'm not sure if the stewards are going to allow that one to happen. We'll have to wait and see it. Oh no, they are going to slap a half-second track limit infraction on him there. I thought that might have been just a little too far, and that's going to cost him about a second when he serves that penalty there, but could be worse. Could be worse. We've got ERA's Harlock here in 11th place, and ooh, a little lag spike there. Gotta love it. Ooh, that was a lot worse than it actually was because of the lag. He definitely lost the back end a little bit there under the throttle, but it was a little more aggressive due to the air quotes net coating that we're seeing at the moment here, and I'm not sure what that's about. He looked pretty solid last time we were on him, so hopefully the connection is all right. But 40 seconds to Keplero, I believe that was around a minute, so closing in. Harlock doing Harlock things here, just absolutely head down and foot into it and just trying to hit his marks every single time around the racetrack, and it is working right now as he's closing into that top 10 position. But there's definitely some lag from that driver right now on the racetrack. Anyways, I had to get away because my eyes were kind of starting to bob back and forth, and I'm sure it was much the same for the viewers. It's not audioly pleasant either, unfortunately. So it is Roses here in 12th place and about a minute 9 in behind Harlock, but Harlock is lapping pretty good here right now. We're seeing a nice 219, 218 pace here now from Roses as he starts to settle into this racing car here in stint number 10, so it's lapping quite well as well. Our race leader here, 1 minute 32 seconds ahead of the second place Esports Race Asylum Corvette. This is what Overboost Racing Team seems to do best, is lead the race, control the pace. We have seen the Esports Race Asylum team over the last few hours here close that gap up to about a minute and a half, but we have not been able to see them close that gap any closer than that minute and a half. So I mean, you know, as the minutes tick away and as the hours tick away here, you know, the clock is running down on Esports Race Asylum, and they just somehow, some way, have got to find a way to break that minute 30 barrier right now. Maybe rattle that team a little bit, maybe shake them up a little bit, going, okay, these guys are showing some pace here. Okay, maybe we gotta start picking it up ourselves. You know, maybe that forces a small mistake. Just speculating. I'm just doing commentator things, don't mind me. But a half-second penalty here for a race leader, and that is definitely not ideal when you're trying to maintain a gap. It's a sizable gap, however, the second that half-second penalty eventually is going to cost is not going to necessarily make or break the race here right now for him. But at the end of the day, that second could matter at the end of the day, I suppose. So minute 32 is the gap. We're going to see a second gained from that penalty being served once they get to that point, and I think it's actually going to be the next time around the racetrack here. So we'll see it go down to about a minute 31 potentially, maybe a minute 30, depending if King Ears has better sector than, say, the ORT driver did somewhere along the way there, but actually loses a second there. 2 hours sleep, that's all the daughter will allow. That's tough, Mike. That's tough, Mike. But hey, they grow up fast, man, so you gotta take it all in while you can, because before you know it, they're talking back and borrowing money. I kid. I love my kids too. Being a parent is tough. Being a parent's tough. But you know, you just want to keep your kids happy and show them enjoyment in life as much as you can, so the sacrifices we make as parents, you know, the sacrifices we make as parents, whether it's just a newborn or a 13-year-old teenager, that's, you know, dealing with life issues, right? Being a parent is tough. Being a parent is very tough. So we do have a change of position here. We've got Macho Monkey now moving up into third position here, and Hansa losing that position here to Macho Monkey. So I'm just going to take a quick peek over here and make sure we didn't miss anything more pertinent than just the fact that Sector 7 BMW just closed up the gap here and made a very good pass. And unfortunately for me, I wasn't paying enough attention to catch it, so I apologize to you guys, the viewers. But we do have a change for podium position here, 49 minutes into stint number 10 here, and that is going to be the Sector 7 Racing BMW, taking that spot away from ER Racing GTR team here. So that GTR has been hovering around the podium here all day long as well. So I wouldn't say that they're out of it by any stretch of the imagination, but Macho Monkey in that Sector 7 BMW looks very hooked up right now and very dialed in, that's for sure. Jakey here in the Race Asylum 2 Lexus right now, and that was a very short entry coming into the top end of La Radion here as well, so we're a little curious if we're going to see the same result there. Nope, apparently the steward said his was okay and Loose Moose Racing's wasn't, so we're just going to leave it with that. Jakey coming around minute 34 in behind Hansa right now, so that was 2.5 minutes at the fourth place. They got the lap back after the pit. I mean, that's almost a 30-second gain here right now from Race Asylum 2, and the Lexus is piloted currently by Jakey here, so we're seeing some gains from some of the drivers on track here in this stint. And I mean, track conditions have become very optimal, but that sun, that blazing sun, has kind of gone away now, and we're starting to see a very light cloud cover in the skies here again as well. Welshie in the MRL BMW here, was it 218, 218, 218, 217, 218, 219? You know, I want to say that damage is certainly affecting that car to some extent or another, but it doesn't overly seem to be affecting that car too drastically. Pacing pretty well around the racetrack here, and I mean, it's enough to still hold teammate in the GTR, Yeast, in behind at about 39 seconds, which is about what that gap has been pretty consistently at here for the large portion of this stint. So must not be affecting the car too much. Got Ando here in 8th place. 7 seconds is the gap here now between him and 7th place MRL driver, so Ando is definitely starting to make up some tarmac here on Yeast as well. That gap, what was it? It was 9.6, I believe it was. Last time we really took a good solid look through the field here, and almost down to 7 seconds here. And Ando's a very quick driver as well, so he definitely has what it takes to close the gap and make a pass. That's for sure. It's just whether or not he can execute. Execute is the word of the final few hours here for sure. We got Hideo here in the Syndicate Racing Corvette, and that gap was down to about 47 seconds to Ando at some point there, but back up to 53 seconds. So Ando currently lapping a little bit better than Hideo in behind. So, I mean, Ando's probably not really worried about what's happening a minute behind him right now, as opposed to what's happening 7 seconds in front of him. So we're going to continue our field jump through here, and then we're going to go back to that mid-pack potential battle there and see if Ando can continue to close up that gap a little bit. Caballero GT here in the Loose Moose Racing AMG. The gap is, I'm not sure what it is to Hideo here. Hopefully it gives us a little bit of insight once we get past the live timing sector here. But he is have the race leader coming in on him here, and that may have something to do with why live timing hasn't updated yet. That wouldn't shock me. But you know, in real life they have transponder units on the race cars, and that transmits the information to the tower to the racetrack, and then, you know, the process goes on from there. But in GT7 apparently it's more difficult than that. So yeah, you know, 2 minutes, there's the gap finally, is the gap between Caballero and Hideo, and Caballero has 35 seconds to Harlock. So Harlock is chewing some time out of that Mercedes here for sure, as he and allows the ORT racer to get ahead there, the race leader, in a good, safe manner. So Harlock with 36 seconds in behind Caballero here right now, and it was close to a minute before the beginning of the stint. So I mean, another driver making up some distance here, and we're seeing a trend here right now in the latter dying stages of this race, and that is the RA teams seeming to close up gaps. So I don't know if it's just a driver placement strategy or the condition of the racetrack is just really good shape. You can see the sun's back out shining again here on the racetrack. The clouds have dissipated a little bit, and the track just continues to get more and more in towards an optimal racing condition. So typically in the GT3 cars, you want that track temperature, and when I say track temperature, I don't mean the weather around the racetrack, I mean the asphalt temperature, the asphalt surface itself, roughly around between 34 to 38 degrees Celsius is like prime temperature, track temperature for these GT3 racing cars to get essentially most efficient traction and grip out of the rubber, but also the best aerodynamic suction force down to the racing surface as well. So when you see a track temperature in between about 34 to 38 degrees Celsius, depending on the racetrack, the elevation of the racetrack, elevation matters so much when it comes to cars, and airflow and cooling especially. These cars really start to hook up and really start to put down some times. I mean, 216 flat right now for Macho on the racing tires, and we're not on the fastest racing tires here right now. Anybody in the lobby is not on the racing softs at the moment. So I mean, that is a medium tire time there as well. So player Prof 1 for ORT here again, minute 34 in behind. But we want to go check out, where was that? The Ando Yeast gap here. So the gap is 5 seconds now, so it's another second gained from Ando over Yeast here. So let's jump on with Ando. Let's jump on board with Ando, but let's get that camera view, since the keyboard hotkey doesn't switch it to that one for some reason. Not sure why, that's just the way it rolls. But basically this camera would be strapped to the X-frame part of the roll cage in behind and off, obviously, to the right side of the racer. And in this particular car, depending on which side of the car you're driving from, will obviously depend on the placement of that camera. So this is what the view is. So you can see it's just set in behind the driver's seat. Obviously that's where the X-frame of the roll cage sits to protect the driver from heavy impacts, cars coming in, to obviously the car cab and various other things, debris, etc., etc. So designed for high impacts and ultimate safety for the racer. But Also a good place to strap a camera and get some great in-car footage here. So we still got a gap we're working on here. We're not in an immediate battle here. We're just hanging out with Ando from Sector 7 Racing in the Renault RS01 here as we continue to track around Spa. This is kind of the smallest gap we got on track right now. So we're urging Ando to close the gap a little bit here to create a battle for the viewers, essentially, is what we're doing here. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're going to go with that. But it's working. 4.9 seconds, Matt. We're going to keep hanging out. How's it going, Jay? How you doing? He does not need to stop for fuel. I hate that the game does that. After 2 years now of the game being out, you'd think that one small little detail they'd be able to get rid of. I'm just saying. I'm not pooping where I eat, so to speak. I'm just saying, you'd think some of these smaller details they would have been able to take care of by now. I'm just saying. So 4.4 seconds. I mean, Ando is putting in some work here right now. You could just see the car of Yeast just up ahead here as Ando was entering into Rouge and Laradion, and as we head just up to the end of the Campbell Straight there, one of the two cars up ahead there is most certainly that positional car 4.6 seconds ahead, and I believe it is the car directly ahead of Ando here at the moment. It was like my voice was about to disappear there. We can't have that happen. We're not ready for that yet. We still got more to do here. Ando here in 8th place, 4.4 seconds. He's doing a great job. He's doing a great job of closing this gap right now. Very smooth, very rhythmic here as he navigates the middle part of the racetrack heading into Pouon. Here is just some light braking, not even here for the GT3 cars. It looked like Ando was just using the downshifting, or what we like to call the engine braking in this Renault, to just kind of get the car slowed down. He is on the brakes here. Obviously you need a little more brake input coming into the campus sector here, heading into Stavelot, setting up for the Paul Frere curve. But as we head through Stavelot here, we have literally the Paul Frere curve here. This is just a full send sector. You got to get a little bit of that apex. You got to be careful you don't float too far out there. If you get the left tires into the that green outer rumble strip there, that's dangerous. That's a bad spot to be in as a racer. So you got to make sure you get your angle and your turn in just right into the Paul Frere curve, so you can really maximize your exit out of there. And of course that's going to set up a really high speed entry into Blois-Chaumont, and if you can get that perfect and right, then you'll have a great exit speed coming out 150 some plus miles an hour in these GT3 cars, and that's definitely what you're looking for. So 3.3 seconds. We're going to let the production crew take back over here and start to set this battle up for us here as well. So we're just going to go take a quick peek here. We're going to go check on some quick gaps. Minute 36 here between first and second place. We got 15 seconds between third and fourth place. We're not sure what the gap between Jakey and Hansa is at the moment. It was a minute 34 last time we checked. It's minute 30 right now, so a little bit of time being gained there. 24 seconds separating Jake and Welshie, 41 separating Welshie and Yeast. So it is Ando currently really the driver looking to gain position right now on the racetrack, closing in quickly too. Only 3 seconds in behind Yeast right now. Hiday's a minute in behind here from the Syndicate Racing Corvette and just doesn't have an answer for the current pace of Ando at the moment. We've got Caplero GT here in 10th position, trying to track down Hiday as well. The gap was about a minute, if I'm not mistaken, last time around for Loose Moose Racing here. It might have been a little more, I don't quite remember. But we're seeing drivers taking a lot of liberty on the inside uphill entry of Loretion. And I mean, obviously that's going to gain you a little bit of time because you're essentially cutting that corner just that much more shorter. That means less distance traveled for the race car, but here's risk versus reward there. All it takes is just a little too much tire, a little too far over the curbing off the track surface there, and the track officials here at Spa typically are quite ruthless, but they've played pretty nice here so far today for the most part. Obviously, understanding 24-hour race, it's a long race, that they're going to give potentially a little leeway to the racers, potentially. So Harlock is almost got that gap to Keplero now in 10th place, almost down to the 30-second mark here, so they almost chewed about 30 seconds, give or take a few seconds one way or the other, down off the 10th place driver here. So Harlock putting in some work, and we're an hour into the 2-hour driver stint here, so that means potentially by the end of the stint we could see a very close battle for race lead. Position change, not race lead. Between those two drivers. It's been a long day, I apologize. Come on, Harlock, get him. Absolutely. Harlock is flying right now. We'll go back to Harlock here for a second. We're going to definitely go back and check in on Ando here because, yeah, they're closing. They're getting close here, so. And you can see the pace of Harlock here, actually, I think that's the Lexus or just in behind of Jakey there, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but where's our boy Roses? Here, Rosies. There he is. All right, and Roses is about 1:20 in behind ERA's Harlock right now, so moving and grooving in that McLaren, gets a nice entry up into Laurentian there, and you know, did he get all of it? Based off of what some of the drivers are doing, not necessarily, but definitely a good exit, exit through Laurentian there. So back to the battle here for 7th position between Yeast and Ando. Not a battle yet, but is about to be a battle here very soon by the looks of it. Ando has just been chewing time out of Yeast right now in the MRL GTR. So the Sector 7 Renault is tracking very, very quickly here at Spa right now, and this lap or next lap we're going to see this battle really start to heat up here. So we're going to stick with this. Here. This is definitely where the action is on the racetrack right now. We're keeping our eye on the track radar up at the top right hand side of the screen, make sure we don't miss anything else, but live battle for position ensuing here. 1.3 seconds is the gap and closing. Ando it almost is in that slipstream range at this point, and that's a good spot for that Renault to be in behind a car like the GTR that has some good straight top end speed. Perfect place for the Renault to be. Maximize exit speed, which is what that Renault really is great at. Obviously, cornering is a very good strength of the Renault, and that does allow, typically with these mid-rear engine cars, to carry a lot more apex speed through the technical sectors, which typically allows them to get a better launch on the exit, and that is the crucial point of catching up to these bigger straight line cars, is getting that huge run on these smaller corner capable cars to stay in the slipstream, so that big more powerful car up in front literally just pulls the littler car right down the racetrack for free. And that's exactly the position Ando's in right now. He's right on the tail end of that slipstream range here right now. He's not quite in it. It's not pulling him in closer yet, but very, very close to the cusp of getting some free pull in towards Yeast GT here. And as we head up into the end of the Kemmel Straight into Lacombe, I do suspect we're probably going to see Ando close this gap up a little bit more here. This is again where this car excels. All these technicals in the early part of Spa here is definitely where the Renault is going to be stronger on this GTR. The GTR is surprisingly is nimble for a big car, but not as nimble as that Renault is. And you can see the gap's closing now. Ando is very firmly in the grasp here now, and assess and execute at this point here for the Sector 7 Racing Renault right now. Spa, lots of great spots you can really make a pass here in this racetrack as well. So your guess is as good as mine when this is going to happen. Is he going to sit behind, apply some pressure, maybe for a lap or two, try to apply that pressure force mistake, or is he just outright going to pick a spot and absolutely make it happen? We're about to find out, because the gap is 0.4, so basically a little more than a car length separating the MRL GTR and the Sector 7 Renault right now. And just up in ahead there is, I believe, one of the Race Asylum cars. It is his second place driver, King Ears, as a matter of fact, so these guys pacing quite well. with King Ears just up ahead there. He's been about the same distance up ahead of these two for a while now, so the Renault got a very nice run through Blosham there, had a nice tight entry line through there, and that is, you know, Andel's just, I think Andel's sitting back and assessing right now. I think Andel's just sitting back, feeling the GTR out, trying to see if he can pinpoint a very specific spot where he can really take advantage of this car. So assessing the situation potentially right now here, but he gets a great run around La Source there, and I mean, he should be in a position to potentially make a move before the end of the Kemmel here. We'll have to see how the run up Rouge and La Ratillon goes. The GTR is very strong in this part of the racetrack, so it is a tough ask, but the Renault gets a beautiful run up in through La Ratillon, in down the Kemmel Straight, and I don't think he was ready to make that move there yet. I don't think he felt he was close enough. You could see he actually pulled the car out of tow a little bit there to get just get into the open air for a second. So I think Ando realized right out of the exit there he wasn't quite in the position he was maybe wanted to be in up to Kemmel Straight to make that pass. So he's just going to continue to work on really applying some pressure here now to MRL driver Yeast, and yeah, a little defensive Yeast went there heading into Brussels as well. So I'm more than aware that Ando was there. More than aware that Ando was there. Alright, here we go. The games begin. Battle on. This is a battle for 7th place between the number 7 Renault and the number 39, I believe that is, GTR. '09. I apologize. The '09 GTR. Alright, so where is Ando going to make it happen? This is the bigger question here. Being very patient right now, just sitting in behind the GTR. Maybe this is by design. Maybe he's aware that that GTR is going to give him a little free speed potentially here up these power straights, as I like to call them, or these power sectors. But the issue is exactly what we just saw right there. He's also got to deal with that dirty air and a little bit of a wiggle fishtail there coming off the curbing out of Blochemont there, and he didn't get a penalty there, so that is very fortunate for Ando not to pick up a track limit penalty there, because he was most certainly very wide into the corner there as he was coming around. So that has given Yeast a little bit of breathing room. That has almost put the gap back to a second here, and as we head down and back in towards Rouge and La Ratillon, it is exactly at a second here again. So just outside of the edge of the slipstream there, and a very small mistake there from Ando, but a mistake nonetheless, and a mistake that now he has to spend a lap or two to try and close back in here on Yeast. And I know for a fact the second that I leave this battle is when it all goes down, so we're going to stick with it here for a little bit longer. We definitely have lap traffic happening right now in certain parts of the racetrack. We're just going to take a quick flip through here, make sure we're not actually missing anything. No, we're okay there. Okay. So, Ando on the chase. The prey, a rainbow-colored GTR. The goal, get ahead of it. It's been a fun race so far. It has been an up and down race for some of these drivers too. I mean, the Sector 7 Racing Renault has been as high up, I believe, as the podium positions at one point in the race, and sitting in the mid-pack here for a large part of the race now. Small mistakes, inclement weather, you know, you have to make a call in some of these stints. The teams have had to make very tough decisions with very limited amount of laps left in the stint. To try and minimize any kind of time loss, so they had to weigh pit loss versus potential danger factor with some wet conditions starting to develop very, very close to, say, driver swaps. it's been a very up and down race for several of the racers here on the racetrack this season for sure. That's the Play-Doh GTR? Ah, okay. I dig it. I dig it. The Play-Doh GTR. Love it. Having a hard time reading the chat right now. My eyes are going a little buggy, apparently. Yeah, rocking and rolling. 1 hour and 12 minutes into this 2-hour run here for these drivers in behind the wheels of the cars, and we're still on board with the Sector 7 Racing Renault here. We're going to jump into pit stop. Obviously, was made by somebody. Just trying to figure out who it was. Got pit stops starting to be made by some of our other drivers here. We've got Jakey coming into pit lane here as well. I think it was Welshie. Yeah, it was Welshie that made a pit stop there that jumped Yeast and Ando up another position there. So had me concerned that we missed something crucial there. But just some pit stops starting to happen here on lap 26 of 53. So it seems a little bit early to me, based off of what we've seen throughout most of this race here, but some drivers are definitely much better at managing their tires than other drivers as well, so it's all speculation at the end of the day. Alright, battle re-engaged here. Ando is all over the back trunk of this GTR here right now. As we come around, Blochemont gets a very good run there, and I guess, is we going to see defense? Or are we going to see an attack? We're just going to see the driver stick to the racing line here. A very wide corner entry from Ando, looking for a very good run out of the exit, and that is exactly what he gets there. And that's what that car needs to do, is stay right on the bumper of that GTR in these straighter lines. So braking just a little bit earlier, turning in just a little bit earlier than that car up in front, and that allows him just exactly to come out where he intends that car to be, and that also allows him to still maintain a close enough gap to the backside of the GTR to hopefully use slipstream and take advantage. But you can just see how powerful that GTR is up the hill through Arouge and Laurentillon, and that Renault is just not quite as strong heading up the hill there, and that is definitely not allowing Ando to make it happen at the end of the Kemmel Straight. This is definitely one of the more ideal passing zones here on the racetrack heading into Lacombe here, and he's just not quite able to get the run up the hill on the Play-Doh GTR, as I'm informed here, in front. So great battle. This is a great battle right now. How hard is Ando trying to get around the GTR is hard to say, but he's definitely had pace, and he definitely closed in super quickly on this GTR. So at some point, I do suspect that he's being slowed down in a sense right now from the Play-Doh GTR here as well. Maybe Ando figured that there was going to be a pit stop being made from this driver, maybe in the next couple laps or something as well, potentially. It is hard to say what kind of communication's happening, obviously behind the scenes and to the driver through the car radio, but there's definitely a different strategy at play between the two drivers. So we've seen Ando pit to fix a damaged race car and modify his strategy slightly. So did a little bit of a different pit strategy happening between the two teams here and two cars here right now as well. But it seems like that the GTR just doesn't quite have the same pace that Ando was showing to close in the gap. But Ando not forcing the issue here. He's just looking. Well, I think we're seeing a signal from the GTR here that I believe that is I'm coming into pit lane signal for Ando here, and that's exactly what that was. So Ando recognizing that the driver was giving him a warning there, and Ando absolutely just sticks to the other line, allows him that pit entry, and Ando's going to get the position. So maybe that last assumption was correct. Maybe there was a little bit of communication between the team radio saying, hey, I think, these guys are probably very near their pit window. Don't force it, maybe that's what the call was there. quite potentially, or the racer himself, Ando, just made that decision based off of being very aware of what's happening on the racetrack potentially as well. We got Macho here in third place. I mean, done some huge work to get back into the podium here, and it now has a 32-second gap built over Hansa here in the GTR, and that is turning into a sizable gap here as again the minutes are ticking. The minutes are ticking here in this 24 hours of Spa. We're less than 5 hours remaining, so just trying to see what the gap between Jake and Hansa is at the moment. That gap was a minute and a half. I think the last time we took a really good solid look at it, that was quite a few laps ago now. So let's go take a look here and see what that gap is now. We really want to ramp it up to see a good fight there between Ando and the MRL Nissan there. But ultimately, I kind of had a suspicion that a pit stop sequence was going to break that battle up, and that's exactly what we saw there. So 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So a little bit of time lost currently to Hamza, but Jakey has just come from a fresh pit stop where Hamza still needs to make a pit stop, so that gap will change. So now the task is 29 seconds between Ando and Jakey. Here as the race continues to go around. Welshie is 2.3 seconds in behind Ando here now as well. So Welshie is trying to track in on that Renault and try to get that P6 back for himself here as well. And Yeast is now just out of pit lane there after that pit stop, 43 seconds in behind his teammate here in the BMW. So again, we're going to hang out and keep our eyes on Ando and the other MRL. Holy, get it right, Ghost. Car here, as he's tracking, and he's tracking very, very quickly. But there we go. Ando now coming in for a pit stop here as well, and it's going to be a free position here for Welshie as he continues to come around the racetrack. And that, again, might have been a racer's call right there. Probably realized that that BMW just is on come out of the pit stop recently. He's probably moving at a little bit more of a pace, and instead of fighting that fight and costing time, you know what? I'm just going to take my pit stop and hopefully come back out in clean air and continue to do what I just did last tire stint and close the gap up and make the move, or at least make a battle. Anyways. So Ando in pit lane, you can see that crew changing the tires there. We've got Yeast just in behind King Ears there. Is our second place driver. We've got Hidey 1 minute 21 seconds in behind Yeast, so losing a little bit of pace on those drivers right now is Hidey. Capolero is X amount of time behind Hidey. Totally undetermined at this point in time, but 22 seconds ahead of Harlock. So Yaris Harlock has been just chipping away at this Loose Moose Racing AMG Mercedes. The gap was, I think it was 54 seconds. I want to say 54 seconds. That's just my number I'm sticking with apparently in this stint. But that kind of seems to be the number that everybody was sitting at there for a while between each other. But down to 22 seconds. So, I mean, that's a good time gain right there. That is some huge time gain right there from Harlock in the ERA BMW here. So, or the RA BMW, pardon me. And then we've got Roses in the number 45 McLaren here as well. Still absolutely tracking up the racetrack here, losing a little bit of time to Harlock right now, but Harlock is flying up the racetrack at the same time. Macho is still fastest racer on the racetrack in this 2-hour session with a 2:16.005. That is an absolutely crazy fast lap from that driver here, and one of the most certainly one of the faster medium tire laps for sure throughout this race. The woes of endurance racing, hey, finalized. Alright, so player prof here is in first place, 2 minute 32 second gap over King Ears in the Esports Race Asylum Corvette. So a lap down again is the Esports Race Asylum Corvette here right now. The big question is, what happened there? we got a juicy battle happening in behind here. Let's get, oh, Andos, back to Andos. Alright, so we got Ando and Yeast battling it back out here for 7th and 8th place. Yeast is going to get it done into Lasource. Ando's going to try the over-under. A small little touch between the two drivers there on the exit. We're going to go side by side here as we head towards Rouge and L'Ardillon. But we've seen that GTR just be so much stronger than that Renault every time up the hill here. We've been watching these two battle for the last few minutes or a few laps here, so not surprised to see that the GTR just sheerly outdrove that car in a straight line to get into position to get up into the hill first. But Ando's in much better position here to up to Kemmel Straight to try and make a move. And I mean, you can definitely make it stick on the outside here, but Ando's just, you know, he's doing his thing. He's battling here. He's getting in the driver's head. He just keeps getting in position, sticking his nose and moving left and right. You know, he's trying to figure out where the best spot to pass is, but maybe trying to psych the driver out in front, draw him into miscalculation, a missed defense, defending when he really didn't need to, compromising in exit. There's so many things that the driver in behind can do now. There's a playbook, essentially, that the driver in behind can use to try and make this pass on Yeast here. So, game on. Love it. Let's battle, boys. Let's battle. I'm just holding my breath in anticipation for something just amazing to start developing here. But no, this is just a very good calculated battle right now between Yeast and Ando. Both drivers are fresh out of a pit stop. They're both on fresh tires. They're both on their designated amount of fuel that they wanted to take. And just feeling each other out here, I think, right now. You know, they've learned a little bit about each other probably over the last dozen laps, so they've been working this battle here as well. You know, Ando's been working on closing in to make the battle happen. Got to that point, pit stop sequence started to happen, and here we are nose to tail, right back into the thick of it here between these two drivers. So Ando did close in on Yeast with a tire advantage, most certainly. In that last little bit before the pit stops here, the tire advantage is now gone between the two drivers, essentially. And it's going to come down to the drivers and the car here. So the GTR, again, stronger in a straight line. And that is the battle that Ando has to figure out here to make his way around that car, but not only to get past that car, but also to have to hold that car off and start to develop a gap to try and not allow him to get back into re-attack. So he's up against a tough fight here against that GTR, just on the sheer straight line power this car has. The Renault has all the other angles covered here around Spa, except for the back third of the racetrack, where that GTR just sheerly excels. All the power sections up to Rouge L'Ardillon, we've seen the Renault literally side by side with that car with a better run almost, essentially, heading into that uphill section of the racetrack, and that GTR still outdriving this Renault. So, this is a tough battle right now for the Sector 7 Renault, for sure, here in 8th place. The gap is starting to open up a little bit, so Yeast is showing some pace here in front of Ando as well. Like, alright, you want to fight, you want to try and take 7th place away, then come and get it. Come and get it. So, here we go. The games begin. Let's do a little walk through our field here. We're really just sticking with those two right now because that's where the battle is. That's kind of where the action is, but we're going to continue to just go through our field, keep an eye on things. It looks like we had a live timing issue going on again with the game that was giving us a little bit of misinformation on the gap between first and second place. So I kind of, as everything sorts itself out after pit stops, it looks like minute 41 is the actual gap between first and second place. So not a whole lot of time loss there, a little bit of time loss compared to earlier on in the stint, but only a handful of seconds really. So King Ear's pacing quite well, but like I said, you know, the minutes are starting to tick down right now. This was an important stint for all the teams because these drivers are trying to do the setup work for their best two drivers ready to take the pilot seat here in these race cars. And the setup is so important. You got to get that momentum built up. You gotta get the setup. Got to definitely relay the way the car feels around the racetrack to the next driver as efficiently and descriptively as possible, so they can immediately just jump into the car and feel like they've been on the track for 2 hours themselves already as well. That is very important information to be passing on to the next driver. So the stint is really important because the next 2 hours is going to be exactly what I say it is. That is setup. It is the last chance dash to get into a position to take the last 2 hour run and hopefully fight for position. So Macho Man here, minute 33 in behind King Ears right now, but still working on developing that gap over 4th place. 36 seconds is that gap currently here. So Macho Monkey has done some great work here for the Sector 7 Racing BMW team. Grabbed them a position on track since the stint has started, and also opened up a healthy gap to the 4th place driver in that GTR as well. Now, with that being said, we have IRO's Jakey out in 5th place here, and tracking back in on the backside of Hamza as well. So it was 2 minutes, back down to a minute 6. So we're definitely seeing some fluctuation with the pit stop strategies varying from team to team here as well. All right, Mr. MRL Welshie here, the 33 BMW from Medway Racing, is roughly about 36 seconds in behind IRO's Jakey right now as well. So no man's land. Lots of these guys are kind of in no man's land. And he has 43 seconds over the 7th place driver East, who still is maintaining about a 1.5 to 2 second gap over Ando currently. The gap between Ando and Hidey is minute 24 seconds. It's the live timing just updated there for us. And this is the Syndicate Racing Corvette here. I mean, this has been a absolutely tough race for this team. Crazy pace in that car. Just the race didn't develop very well for them early on, and they've been kind of just on that back foot since. And again, it's just sheer crazy pace coming from this car. And you know, all the what ifs and buts, and if this didn't happen, if this happened this way, you know, are they contenders here today in the 24 hours of Spa? Absolutely, they absolutely would have been contenders here. But racing is racing; things happen the way they happen, and they're currently sitting in 9th place, trying to track down that 8th place driver who's currently on a tear in that Renault right now. We've got Caplero GT here in the Loose Moose Racing Mercedes AMG, the newest version. I believe this is a 2020 edition car that was recently dropped in the game a few months ago. Very solid, stable car from Mercedes as usual, and always a pretty good competitor on the majority of the racetracks at Gran Turismo 7. Maybe not the meta car, quote unquote, in a lot of those combos, but definitely a competitive car. Sitting in 10th place currently and has 18 second gap over Harlock. Now, I think when we talk about the biggest gaps closed up here in stint number 10, this definitely belongs to Harlock. 54, I want to say, maybe even 58, somewhere in that range at the beginning of the stint, and down to 17.9 seconds. So, driver of the stint right now is most certainly leaning into IRO's Harlock's favor for sure here from the booth, because this is just, you love to see these incredible drives to close up these huge gaps like that, especially in these long distance races. So you know, 17 seconds away from potential top 10 here right now for Harlock. We've still got 30 minutes, 35 minutes, maybe even 40 minutes before driver swaps are fully engulfed here. Could be interesting. Give way to faster cars. Who is the faster car closing in here? It is King Ears in the Esports Race Asylum Corvette 44 car here. So that is where the blue flag is coming from, and not even remotely close enough yet to have to worry about giving up that position at the moment. So they will continue to track down the racetrack, and once King Ears closes into a closer distance, of course, that's when we will see we'll see that driver. I'm not sure who it was again. I already forgot. Concede the position to the lead lap car. So we are definitely getting a little bit tired here, so bear with me. I am just trying to snap back awake here a little bit. We've got Welshie here in 6th place. We've got Yeast in the 7th position. We've got 2 seconds separating him and Ando. So opening the gap up a little bit on the Sector 7 Racing Renault, but Ando is giving it beans here in this stint and really trying to make something happen here for that Sector 7 Racing Renault right now. They're definitely not in an ideal spot in the sense of the championship chase here right now in the finale as far as trying to gain into that podium position, but still having a really good hard recovery drive. So we've got the ORT Lexus just navigating around our 9th place driver Hidey here as we come to check on our Syndicate Racing Corvette, and the gap is a minute 26 to Ando, minute 36 to Caplero in behind. And a very quick transition here between Hidey and Player Prof there through that as well to navigate that blue flag situation. Very clean and efficient there for our race leader. Caplero GT again, minute 36 and behind. Hidey has that gap just continues to dwindle. We're gonna have to be keeping our eyes on 10th and 11th place here before the end of the stint for sure, as these drivers continue. And then we've got our number 45 McLaren here, one of 2 McLarens remaining on the racetrack here today in 12th position. He has Loose Moose Racing closing in on him here a little bit, so we got a blue flag situation developing as well. But at the moment, not close enough to have to immediately worry about it, but definitely that Mercedes is closing in a little bit there, and just a little mistake there. Maybe caught looking in the mirror just to check where that Mercedes was potentially. Caught the grass, got some dirty tires, but all in all, not too shabby. I mean, it could have been much worse. And there we go, blue flag situation navigated very efficiently there. And as soon as he came out of the chicane, just pulled off the racing line there and just allowed that Mercedes to get on by. And of course, tucking right back in behind, using that slipstream to his advantage here. So, I mean, that's just smart racing right there. And that's what you do. Stick with that driver for as long as you can. All right, so I would assume we're going to see Jaeger popping in here within the next few minutes, so we're going to pop our earbuds back in here shortly. But really all I got to do is just click a button and I can see. Alright. I'll pop those butters back into the ears a little bit here. Ooh, we're hooked on a keyboard. We got lots of cords running everywhere. Bear with. There we go. All right. When Jaeger is ready, we will be able to hear him, and then we'll be able to get that audio sourced out for everybody watching at home or at work or wherever it is that everybody is viewing from here. So good morning, afternoon, and I don't think there's any evenings going on right now. Maybe good evening, so we'll say it just in case. And we are, well... 19 and a half hours, my goodness, into this 24-hour race. So 4 hours, 24 minutes, and 37 seconds remain. Brain's not quite computing quickly. It's trying. It is so trying, though. I can smell the smoke. No, I'm kidding. King Ears here, minute 41 in behind the ORT Lexus. And again, we have not seen that gap get any closer than 1 minute 32, 31. I think is the closest I've seen it here the last 12 hours, give or take. Absolutely. I mean, all the racers obviously trying to do the right thing. Sometimes situations happen, and that's not necessarily the way it works. Oh, tense. Oh boy, that was a little sketchy right there between the two drivers. The GTR of Hansa making a mistake there. He went sideways around the racetrack while King Ears was trying to make a blue flag pass around him. Had to make evasive action, got around the car safely, but then tried to get back under steam and almost lost his car as well. So that was interesting. And now we've got a 4-car train developing here. You can see a little shake of the steering wheel there, back and forth from King Ears, just to try and shake some of the dirt off of that racing rubber there as well. But oof, that was a close moment. Let's go take another look at that. That was intense. So you see, he's just closing up here on Hamza, coming up the end of the Kettle Straight. We head into Lacombe there, and I don't know what happened there. Just missed a braking point a little bit, hooked that inside curb, and that just absolutely ripped that GTR right around on him there. And whew, that was a close call right there for our second place driver, King Ears, and brown flag moment right there, without a question of a doubt there, as he was getting around the third place car, or a fourth place car. Whew. All right, 52 seconds is the gap now between Hansa and Macho Monkey. The heart rate is most certainly up a little bit here after that, but you know, these guys are professionals. I mean, they handle it quite well. I'm sure there's some things happening inside their head right now. They're probably you know, going through that moment real quick. But the real good racers, they don't even think about it until after they're out of the race car, and that may be the case here between these two, because it's just business as usual, right back locked into the racing lines and continuing on. Hamza trying to obviously close in on the rear end of that Corvette to use the speed of King Ears to continue to track back up the racetrack, because I mean, 52 seconds is a large gap, way too close for comfort, says Ray. Oh, I agree. That was a moment right there. Whew. The ERA Jakey here, less than a minute now in behind Hansa as well. So that little bit of a mistake made there by Hansa, allowing Jakey to close up a little bit more in that time. So back within a minute of the fourth place driver here as well. We got Welshie here in the 6th position, 40 seconds in behind Jakey, 43 seconds in behind him is Yeast. He's got the Syndicate Racing Corvette currently just in behind him there, piloted by Hidey. And then we've got the MRL GTR in Ando here, just in behind those tense moments of our 4th place driver and our 2nd place driver. They come around the corner and see a couple of cars moving a little bit slower there. Not ideal, that's for sure. So the gap, half a second between Ando and the Yeast here right now, 6 tenths, as we head through Pouan. And this could potentially not be great for Ando here, as we've got a Corvette, a GTR, and a GTR, all nibbling on each other's slipstream range here. And then we've got that poor Renault that has to work so hard through the corners just to get close enough to the back end of that GTR just to maintain pace with that car in these big straights. And now that GTR that's ahead of Ando has another GTR up ahead of him that ideally he could use their slipstream to break the slipstream from the Sector 7 Racing Renault in behind. But Ando clearly is aware of that, and he is not going to let that happen here. He means business. That is okay, I see what's developing here in front of me, and I think that my opportunities are running a little low, so he has amped up the pressure. 100% amped up the pressure. We got some blue on the radar, says one of the race officials, so let's take a peek up at the sky here real quick. It is starting to cloud over a little bit. I wouldn't call it heavy cloud cover, but it's definitely a thin layer of cloud starting to develop. We got a little bit of gray looming clouds there off in the distance, up over around Source, heading down towards Eau Rouge there as well. So, ooh. Lap 38 of 53. Are we going to see some rain coming down here on our drivers to absolutely mess up the program that everybody's had such a nice run here from? So again, this is what we talked about. This is the situation here that is just not ideal for that Renault. Heading up into that big, huge advantage straight up Eau Rouge, La Rétillon, and the Kemmel Straight. You know, the MRL GTR utilized exactly what I figured was going to happen there. He utilized the other GTR slipstream to gain a little more time on the Renault in behind. So bad news for Ando here right now in that Sector 7 Racing Renault RS01, as these two GTRs are linked up right now, and if they don't make any mistakes and they continue to just drive nice and clean and hook up at the right spots of the racetrack, Ando could be left out to dry here in comparison to these power parts of this racetrack. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But here we go, battle on. 0.2 of a second. We're not going to really leave this. This is where the action is. That's for sure. Does the rain dance? You guys are cool. You really are. Look at the great battle we've had for the last like 30 minutes between these two cars here. I mean, rain could completely just mess all that up. I mean, come on. Ooh, Ando's got a run here, heading around Blochemont. Are we going to see an attempt here heading into the bus stop? He made it take a look like he was going to take a look up the inside there. And again, the games are beginning here. Ando just took a look, tried to see if he could maybe gauge a reaction potentially out of East, and didn't get that reaction. But what that did do for Ando was give him some clean, fresh air underneath the front end of that race car to push that car back down into the surface under braking and allow him to get a very good grip level, which allows him to then just tuck right back in behind that GTR and continue to maintain pace. But now here we go again, up this big power straight, up through Rouge Laurentillon and into the Camel Straight. You can see that gap start to open back up on that Renault. That Renault is just at the mercy of the GTRs here on this part of the racetrack. See wipers. Oh. I see wipers too, I just don't see them moving. Alright, so this is where, it really works out in Ando's favor right now. The two GTRs trying to navigate the technical sector in tight quarters like that is probably slowing them down. Ooh! Ando had a little dirty air moment there. It just seemed like the car lost just a momentarily lost a little bit of traction on the exit there, and basically the front end of the car just picked up on him a little bit, and it just broke that traction, that suction to the racetrack there. That cost him a little bit of time there in between the GTR. That was an odd mistake, I guess you can call that, from Ando right there of the Renault. It was definitely looked like that was dirty air related. It just maybe a little bit of movement from the GTRs in front just broke that plane a little bit, and it just slightly jostled the Renault from Ando here. But now we've got Yeast ultimately deciding that he's got pace over Hansa here, and it looks like he's going to try and make a move here and put a car in between him and Ando here as well right now. So this is an interesting strategy as well. Do we see the wipers moving, though, is the bigger question. We definitely do not see wipers moving on the cars, so we're not seeing it yet. Let's jump on board. I said on board with Yeast here, a 7th place driver from Medway Racing, and just kind of see what we see on the windshield here right now. We get a little bit of a better perspective on what the overhead looks like here from the in-car as well. Definitely see some cloud cover here as we head up into Laurentillon, Rouge and Laurentillon, and he is just tucked in tight. Actually gets a really good run up in through Laurentillon there, and he's trying to decide if he's going to make this pass. I'm not really sure. I think he wants to potentially make the pass. I think Yeast probably feels like he has a little bit of pace on Hansa, but also out of respect to the fact that Hansa is the 4th place driver here, maybe doesn't want to make that pass, but at some point, you got to worry about this gentleman right here, Ando, just lurking off in the background here, slowly but surely continuing to close the gap back up through Brussels here. So, interesting here, very interesting. Just stick with it, it's fun, this is great. This has been a great battle here for the last 35 minutes or so between, well, mainly Ando and Yeast here, but a little bit of a cog in the works now with the 4th place driver in the mix here as well. Oh, they stopped after a few seconds. Gotcha. Ooh, a little tap there. Heading into campus from Yeast on the backside of Hansa there, and ooh, again another close moment there, and ooh, this is getting a little bit tough here between these two drivers here right now, and Ando's just eating this up. He's loving this. He's like, yeah, boys, battle it out, battle it out. I'm just gonna close right back in here, and now Hansa has two cars that are technically a lap down to him here. Battling with him here, so this is very interesting. Ando actually backed out of that a little bit there. You can see that the GTR of Hansa got a really good run heading up in through Paul Frere in towards the Blochemont there, and Ando was right there with them, but Ando opting maybe not to battle it out side by side through that particular corner probably is what's happening there, and decided maybe he's just gonna let these guys battle it out and see what happens. But I also think that he's also trying to respect that blue flag protocol situation as well. But I mean, if Ando wants to attack for this position on Yeast up ahead, he's going to have to make the decision here. Do I pass the fourth place driver and get back in on that battle? That's kind of where he's at right now. Interesting, very interesting. He's taking a look. He's just going to show again. We've seen Ando do that a fair bit here throughout sitting on board with him in the MRL. That is a tongue twister right now, apparently. That battle for the last 35 minutes or so here. But, ooh, there it is. There, car going very wide there. Feeling the pressure a little bit there, potentially, from the blue flag cars. Just made a mistake there, maybe mirror watching slightly. And that's actually going to allow Ando to slip up ahead of our fourth place driver Hansa here. So this is, again, another good thing for the Race Asylum team number 2 here in the Lexus 218 Lexus as well, because the little jostling for positions and battling with these blue flag cars is costing him a little bit of time, obviously, around the racetrack, and that's going to allow Jakey to potentially close some of that time back up. But very similar pace Hansa and Jakey seem to have at this point in the races. That gap is still right at about that 49-second mark. Well, she is 45 seconds in behind Jakey. We're going to take the opportunity to go through the field here with 9 laps remaining. Brain, again, not computing. We definitely know what's going on up here. We've been on board with these couple of drivers here for quite some time. We've got Hidey in 9th place, and as all of this has been happening over the last 30 minutes, Hidey is losing a little bit of pace, actually, to Ando and Yeast there as well. So that kind of surprised me. They got that wrong right there coming up in through Laurentillon. He's probably going to get a half second for that, most likely. Yep, he is. And we've got Keplero GT here in 10th position. So 7.5 seconds now is that gap between him and Harlock. We've been hanging out with Ando and Yeast for so long here, we kind of almost forgot that this was happening back here. We do apologize to our drivers back here, but it's been some pretty good viewing there with that Renault and the GTR up in the middle part of the field here. But I mean, Harlock is 7.2 seconds in behind Keplero GT here now. He's still tucked in behind ERA's Jakey in that Lexus and has been sitting there for about the last 35 minutes. So essentially pacing at the same pace as the 5th place driver Lexus right now. So Harlock is just locked in right now. I mean, that is 50 seconds gained so far here in this stint. A very, very, very great job there by Keplero. Just had a ping there. We just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything important. At this time in the morning, my phone typically doesn't ping, so it means I should probably pay attention. Ooh, half-second penalty there for Harlock. That's a little bit of out of the sale, so to speak, as that charge up to Keplero GT here is going to be just slightly slowed down a little bit, and it's actually really unfortunate there for Harlock, because that half-second penalty is also going to pull him out of the slipstream of Jakey in the Lexus up ahead as well. So a little bit of free speed potentially being lost there between or after serving this penalty from Harlock here. So let's see what Roses is up to here. We got Roses in 12th position here. The gap is, we'll find out shortly as we enter into Pouan here. And the live timing decides it wants to tell us. No? Okay. X amount of seconds behind. We'll just go with that. He's moving and grooving in that McLaren, though. I love to see the newer faces on the racetrack as well. So that means everybody's getting their feet wet here in the series, and it's a tough series. It's tough. The 2-hour race is tough in itself, but you know, a 24-hour race and doing 2 or 3 or 4 of those stints as a racer is even tougher. And like I said, as a racer, it's tough to just shut it all off and close your eyes and go to sleep for 3 or 4 hours before your next stint, because you got to know what's going on. You want to see how the team's doing. You just want to be there and be a part of it, right? So a lot of the drivers not really, you know, are going to be looking at some recovery time here after the race today, I'm sure. But it's all par for the course. That's what we signed up for. Minute 50 is the gap between Player Prof and King Ears. So starting to lose some time here back to the ORT Lexus right now. Again, I'm not going to hold that to face value quite yet until I see it pop up on the proper live tapping. So now we'll hold it to face value as the numbers match up there. Minute 50, minute 17 from second place to third place here, Macho. So Macho is a lap down over the first place driver, but not from King Ears. So still potential second place there for Sector 7 Racing number 13 BMW here. Hansa here in fourth place. Was stuck in a little bit of an interesting situation there for a moment there with Ando and Yeast from the MRL GTR there, but since have sorted that out, and those two drivers are up the road and moving and grooving here. Jakey still has Harlock in tow here, even after having to serve that penalty there as well, so that's good for Harlock, as Harlock is continuing to try and close in on Keplero, and they're getting to the point where they can almost see that Mercedes here now. So what a drive by Harlock, I tell you. All right, let's keep going here. Ignore the fuel. The game's lying to us, as per normal. Again, simple little things that they just can't seem to get rid of. Unfortunate, but continuing on here is the Sector 7 Racing driver Monkey, Macho Monkey. Hansa here in fourth place. I mean, really, this is kind of where the action is. We're definitely keeping a much closer eye on Harlock here as well. But 1.4 seconds is the gap here between Ando and Yeast right now, and it's like 5 seconds between Harlock and Keplero here, so we're going to kind of swap back and forth between the two sets of potential battles here right now. Our race leader is on lap 47 of 53 here as well, just in case the powers that be need that noted. Alright, so 1.4 seconds is this gap between Ando and Yeast, and when we come back to the Caplero Harlock potential battle, that gap is 5.9 seconds. So, Jakey is a lead lap car, which means that if they close up to the backside of the Loose Moose Racing Mercedes AMG driver, he will be showing blue flags. Now, that could be an interesting situation. One of two things can happen here. He moves over, gives Jakey the position very easily, and that costs him a potential position to the chasing driver Harlock, or he's very aware that Harlock is nipped right in behind Jakey. And semi-defense the position. Yeah, I know it's muted. I know. I know. We do have Jaeger back up in the booth here with us here as he's preparing to set up stint number 11. We are getting close.
Can't believe it here.
All right.
11. Wow.
Let's half-second penalty there for Ando in behind Yeast here, and I mean that gap is back down to 0.6. Half-second penalty is going to put it back to about 1.62. It is a great battle between these two drivers here for the last, basically this last hour almost, essentially, for 7th place here between Ando and Yeast, and I suspect this is going to go right to pit lane, probably right to pit lane like this. Let's go keep our eye on our 10th place potential battle here too. Caplero GT and Harlock. 6.5 seconds is the gap there now, so a little bit of time lost to the Loose Moose Racing Mercedes there. And we just seeing a hint of the blue flags being waved as ERA's Jakey is just kind of getting into that blue flag distance right now. Check on race leader real quick. Half-second track limit penalty there for the race leader as well, but currently on lap 48 as we enter towards Blois-Chaumont, so we'll be starting lap 49 here in about 30 seconds time, so nearing the end of the stint here, getting prepared for driver swaps. Yes sir, yes ma'am, sir. The powers that be have spoken. Now, is that a family-friendly beverage we just heard pop in the background, or is that a getting ready for the Jaeger stint kind of beverage?
It is alcohol-free.
Every time you hear that sound, you just gotta clarify, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it went directly out of that fridge. Now it's still lovely. Cold beverage. Gotta love it.
Absolutely. So we're just gonna do a quick little roll through, a slowish roll through here through the field right now. This is more for the powers that be at the moment here, so they can get ready for the next stint. Hamza here in 4th place. Minute 17 in behind. 3rd place is Macho Monkey. Macho has done a huge job at closing in, catching up, passing, and opening a gap up on Hansa. I mean, we sit here and talk about Harlock potentially gaining the most time here in this stint. I guess we should not discount Macho Monkey from Sector 7 Racing BMW team here either, because essentially kind of gained 1.5 to 2 minutes of time so far in this stint over the 4th place driver Hansa essentially as well. Jakey here, half-second track limit penalty, that's never ideal. And when he serves that penalty, that is going to allow Harlock to actually slot in front of the Lexus there. So a little bit of an interesting development there. We've got Welshie here in the 6th position. Gap is 49 seconds to Jake and 39 seconds to the 7th place driver Yeast right now, who's probably still battling with Ando very actively here, but we're going to just get that roll through. And, ooh, 5 seconds to gap here now between Yeast and Ando. So it was just a small penalty. Not sure what happened there. No damage on the car or anything like that, so there wasn't an incident for Ando, but just lost touch a little bit. Pardon me, had a couple of sneezes stem up there. Got muted just in time. Hit day for Syndicate Racing Corvette here, number 64 car. Minute 51 in behind Ando in 9th place. You're welcome, right? We've got Kepler GT here, 1 minute 9 behind Hidday, and 5.8 seconds now, only separating him and Harlock, who I would imagine now is ahead of Jake here after the penalty being served. That is most certainly the case. And we've got Roses here still on track as well in 12th position, moving, grooving, and cruising. All right. Check on the race leader. Race leader is on lap 50, entering Brussels right now, so midway point of the racetrack. So about 7-8 minutes, we should see that driver either sitting in his pit box or very close to it. Pending a nice clean 2.5 laps or so here. We have King Ears in second position, and yeah, weather's going to look like it's going to hold up right to the end here for the drivers as well. It teased a slight little bit of rain for about half a split second, and then went, nah, we're kidding. So Macho Monkey here in third place has 3 minutes to the overall race leader here as well. But Sector 7 Racing BMW has made some huge track distance up here in stint number 10 for sure. And it's a toss-up. I mean, driver of the stint, do we give it to Macho or do we give it to Harlock? I guess it's really hard to say. Right now, I guess it goes a little heavier towards Macho because he also gained a podium position from the gain on track in the stint, as well as where Harlock is still tracking down that gain in position with their gap. But, ooh, little lag spike right there from Harlock, and that could make things a little difficult and interesting between the two team cars there as well. But 5 seconds in closing is the gap here between Harlock and Keplero, and there is enough time for that battle to happen before pit entry for those two drivers yet. So only time will tell, and not a whole lot more of it. So lap 51 here as our race leader comes around the source. King Ears is just about a half a lap behind, a little more than half a lap behind, 2/3 of a lap behind, just entering Brussels himself here. So a little bit of a gap there, just a little one, you know, just about a full track, but a little one.
It could all change, could have a slightly wet start to the next stint.
You don't say.
Yeah. I see Raid currently in the lobby. I see it. It's there. Trust me.
You're getting all excited, and I mean, you still gotta wait like at least 6 more minutes to see the first car touch that Raid. So you know.
Yeah. That's the case. Like when most of the drivers are out, the track is dry again. Hey.
All right, Ando's closing that gap back up here, so it was 5.7, back down to 4.5. Ando's just been really on a tear this stint in that Renault. I mean, a great battle between him and Yeast. He's just showing some great pace and integrity himself in that GTR up ahead. So at the end of the day, it's been an hour-long fight for that position, and it's still an ongoing battle for that position between the two drivers, essentially. Today here, just chilling, just getting that car around the racetrack at this point right now, getting it in as quick as you can here, getting it ready to set up for driver swap. Right here, I think this is kind of where our ensuing battle is potentially happening here, is between Loose Moose Racing Mercedes and the Race Silent BMW here. they're in the same frame. They're in the same camera shot here now as the production crew continues to follow the Mercedes around the track here. So definitely close. Definitely getting closer. Ooh, 1 second penalty there for our 12th place driver Roses. That's a tough penalty. That's going to be a little bit of a time loss there once he hits that serving line. A couple of seconds, maybe even 2.5 with the 1 second there. The nature of SPA, the penalty serving zone is right after you come into the Paul Ferrer curve exit. And it's a high-speed sector of the racetrack, so you lose so much momentum having to serve that penalty after the exit of Paul Ferrer curve there. And of course, that's set up into Blochemont as well. So it is a tough penalty serving zone here at SPA, and it definitely costs you some time when you pick up the penalty here. That's for sure. I think I'm losing my voice a little bit, chat. We're gonna have to water it down here over the next little bit, so we got enough left.
You again for that.
Oh, we'll be back. We'll be back.
True. So, actually, the rain is picking up like crazy now.
Ooh.
Come on. Hurry up. Get to the driver's swap to see some crazy rain.
30 seconds out from the first driver coming in by the looks of it here. I know we want to see the battle between Harlock and Keplero. The drivers continue to choose literally the last dying laps of these stints to start battling. Well, we need to be kind of watching what's happening up front here a little bit as well. So we'll do our best to try and keep up with both situations here. But we also got the Ando East battle that we're trying to keep an eye on as well here. So. All right, so our race leader is now entering pit lane, so should be about 30 seconds out. And King Ears is about a minute 15 behind, so there'll be a little bit of a gap between the first and second place driver here. So with that being said, let's get back to this. All right, Harlock is there right at the end of the stint, gets the job done, entering into the bus stop here, the chicane. So comes around Blochemont with the head of steam, gets the inside line inside of the AMG into the chicane, which is obviously the optimal line, heading into the chicane, and gets the job done just before the braking zone there. So not really overly contested either. At the same time, it didn't look like they're from Keplero GT, and the drivers continue up the road here. So great job by Harlock there.
Now full screen with the little insert for stint 10 on your top right corner. You see both of the lobbies racing action. What a service we have today for you.
Jaeger's the man.
Crazy
what can we
stuff.
say? All right, driver swaps are officially underway here between stint 10 and 11 now. So just waiting for the rest of the field to close it on in.
Heavy rain conditions for the start of that stint number 11, where that indicator just is creeping above the second line, but it's intermediates currently for ORT Azurian in the car for the team. We'll see what the other drivers will be doing when they come out of the pits. How long will this shower last? But it's definitely heavy wets at the moment, but probably not for that long, so that's why most of the drivers have opted to go for intermediates, and maybe even some of the drivers further down the grid can start on medium tires as well.
We have our second place driver 20 seconds away. 20 seconds from driver swap.
Yep, it's very moist indeed, River. But you know, all good things come to an end. It probably won't stay that wet. But for now, it's a bit of a change. At least the The rain is coming sideways now, you know, through Stavelo. Wow. So Evo coming out of the pits also, intermediates.
And our first Sector 7 racing car has just entered pit lane. Be the number 13 BMW.
So the gap 1 minute 49 between P1 and P2. And Evo dipping his feet into the wet conditions. We know he likes those conditions, but does that Corvette like conditions?
Isn't that the bigger question? Absolutely. Ooh.
I've already gained a second the first half a minute. He's
Alright, where is Hamza?
pushing early on. So pole sitter coming out of the pit as well for Sector 7 Racing, the 13 BMW. Intermediates as well. So no one going for those heavy wets at the moment. They know it will ease off. 1 minute and 4 seconds currently the gap to Evo in P2. So we still have the 46 and the 44 on the lead lap. And then pole sitter a lap down. Another car getting out of the pits probably very soon.
Cheers, brother. Alright, we have Hansa now entering pit lane, Race Asylum GTR team.
Yep.
Great racing, everyone. You too, my man.
But it has stopped now. No more rain from above.
That was quick.
That track will dry. Yeah, I said.
We have Race Asylum Lexus now entering pit lane.
Still waiting for that fourth car to leave the pits, and we see some movement happening.
Yeah, it should be any second now, for sure.
Should be. It is Lugi. Oh, Lugi with a 3-second penalty. Oh, how did he do that? On the in-lap. On the in-lap for that stint. Oh.
Ouch.
Lugi, you are official lap.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
In intermediates for the 77. It is. But yeah.
Alright, we have the MRL BMW now coming into pit lane, the 33 car.
And Lucas for Race Asylum in that Lexus. No drama on the pit exit as well. Intermediate tires it is. So yeah, still too wet to exit on mediums. But we already see a very weak dry racing line appear in those conditions, so not that long, 3 laps maximum I'd say, and then it's mediums time.
MRL GTR and Sector 7 Racing Renault into pit lane. About 8.5 second gap between those two currently.
Evo gained like 6-7 seconds already on the leader. You see Apex Magnet for MRL now leading the pits, the 33 WM6 out on track, 6 minutes the gap to the leaders at the moment. And 1 minute to P5 to Lucas in that Lexus RCF 218. And Apex Magnet out on medium tires. That's a bit early. He lost it through Lecombe already. So that was again a bold strategy call from the MRL crew. It's a bit too wet, probably one lap too early, but maybe can just survive.
Oh, they tried that they tried that at the beginning of this stint and had much of the same result. Unfortunately, coming right out of pit lane, they had a moment. So,
and the same goes for Johnny Waffle. He insta-car into Lecombe. He avoids damage, gets a reset. Also on racing mediums, what is going on? We see Slipstream as well in general. Also one into Lecombe. They break. He's also too late on the brakes. No, God. Happening, yellow flags. You cannot break that late on medium tires. Come on, you cannot be serious. What's happening? Slipstream, but managed to just go off track, not have like a massive slide and whatever.
I bet that is 3 team radios right now with some very interesting chatter. Oh my.
Cancel. No, it is okay to try it, but it's just probably those 20, 30 seconds, maybe too early when you get released, but you don't want to do that. One intermediates, go in, and then out again on medium, so that is like the risk versus reward thing, but
our 60
on those medium tires.
64 Corvette came in about 10 seconds ago.
It is so we had F8 drivers out on track with the P8, P7 and P6 going for that medium run, so we see the tri line out through the bus stop, and but it takes like still struggling to get the power down on his BMW. What about Johnny Waffle for MRL in GTR? Yeah, that we see definitely a tri line, but they're so slow. Probably they're losing more time on this out lap, and if they would have went on to the intermediates, but yeah, afterwards it's always easier to say should have been the better option.
Hindsight is 20/20, isn't that how it goes?
Maybe. What about Camp out on track on mediums? It looks like the pit exit is good, but about the run up towards the comp, we saw some crazy scenes. It is definitely a bit more dry. Oh, yeah. Camp for the 64 made it work.
Oh so man, I'm sad. I am absolutely missing all the fun right now. I tell you what.
Hey, you had the same fun probably at the start of your stint.
I had a couple of drivers have a couple. I had a couple of drivers have a couple of moments for sure. Yeah. The MRL BMW being one of them for sure. Much of the same decision last time around, and much of the same result, except they didn't even get to Lecombe. It was literally coming out of pit exit. They lost it a little bit, but
they learned their lesson this time on the pit exit. But they went like, "Yeah, it's good. We can brake as usual."
Yeah, you can't brake at the 50-meter board into Lecombe in the wet on mediums. It's just not going to stop.
Leader, but he still stayed out on inter. Evo doing the same. Played it safe for now. What about pole sitters also doing another lap of intermediates? Lugi comes around, probably could think about it. Looking at the visuals, definitely we see that dry racing line now, and already, yeah, you could arguably go side by side already on that line, some parts of the track, so this should usually be the indicator. Mediums it is. So Lucas in P5 also running on those intermediates. Magnet for MRL. The first on mediums. Now, first timed lap, but it's a 2-minute 30.8 compared to a 2-minute 26 for the intermediate runner. So still, I'm not feeling that comfortable. But looks, what about Slipstream? Slipstream got past Johnny Waffle. Johnny Waffle with that big moment into Lecombe on his out lap. 1.8 seconds that gap, and it looks like Slipstream with some pace. Evo into the pits now, getting rid of the intermediates, going for that medium undercut on the leaders. Let's have a look at Slipstream's lap time. Yeah, it's still slower than the intermediates. Look at it, it's a 31 compared to Lugi at 224 on in. Still interesting to see, like the crossover point is not reached currently.
Our final car has entered pit lane here, our 45 McLaren driver. And with that, we will leave Stint 11 in the most capable hands of the amazing singing Jaeger here. And we'll catch everybody back in about an hour's time, maybe a little more, and send this thing home. So appreciate y'all.
See you soon.
And we'll see you soon.
Alright, so we have Adrian.